Although she identifies herself, I think, as an occultist and not a witch, she has a great deal to say on the subject of magic. And more importantly, how to get results, how to do it well. And I'm going to concentrate on one aspect of that now, and that is the imagination. This is going to be a bit of a whistle-stop tour through some of her more useful statements on the subject that I've sort of gathered from here and there. And we'll begin with what she has spoken of, the subconscious. And she believes that it is really important to know as much as possible about how it works. Now, in the time that she was writing, it was probably a less well-known concept, but I think today most people have a pretty good idea about what we're talking about when we say the subconscious. So she says that it's accessed through the imagination using visualization, feeling, symbols, words, etc. And she thinks it's an interface, a doorway to perceiving and indeed working with other realms. She does, by the way, acknowledge that there are other elements involved in successful spell work or magical operations, and that it isn't just one thing. She does come at it from a very psychological standpoint, and there are many other elements, but today we're just looking at the imagination and how that is used to really affect the subconscious. So she says that there is a knack to the whole procedure. Now, sorry about the wobbly camera here, but we did a video a while ago about the witch's pyramid or the magician's pyramid. And what she says next really does pertain to the to know part. So she says on this subject that the satisfactory use of the imagination depends on the right understanding of one's condition and needs. She goes on to say, I say satisfactory and not effectual, for it is possible to use auto-suggestion very effectually with very unsatisfactory results if one's philosophy of life is remote from the facts. And she adds, and this is by no means uncommon state of affairs. So she is really saying that it's so important to know the whole situation. It's important to use divination before doing spell work. To know as much about your motives, about the situation, etc., before you begin. The way of approach lies in the path of fantasy, the most dynamic of all autosuggestion. It might be pure imagination, but it is the way to set the invisible forces in motion. And again, she refers to what we have just been talking about, as she says, providing it lies along the line of their course. When she speaks of the imagination, she is including the full range of faculties that we can find there. So this includes all of the five senses. So when you're doing your spell work, you are looking to include as many of those in your work as you can. So the sights, the smells, the how does it feel, all that sort of thing. If you can, you can add as much of that as you can to your imagination. But even more importantly, I think, is the feeling and the emotion that you can inject into that. And I think she includes this when she just puts a blanket sort of label of imagination onto it. So you're projecting all of this onto the astral level or plane, in theory, with as much passion and detail and immediacy, realism as you can muster. She gave the example somewhere, and I can't find the reference I made to it now, but of you build up the picture on the astral with as much detail as a novelist might build a character. And then finally, you augment this with all the trappings of ritual and symbolism in your spell work, and this appeals so much to the subconscious. Blessings to you all.